Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women Are Worthy Network. I'm so excited. I'm not going to fan out, I promise. So let me get through housekeeping. If you want to join our tribe, you must subscribe. I came up with that, y'all.
Woo, woo, subscribe.
You got to subscribe to the Women Are Worthy Network. So let me tell you again, for those of you who are not familiar with the Women Are Worthy show or the Women Are Worthy Network, I created this platform because I want to show women that we don't just have to look up to celebrities. We are all celebrities, let's face it. You know, we may not all sign autographs, but we're celebrities. So we have a common ground, and I have this, my tagline says, we're all in the same book, just different chapters. So with that said, I am so honored, but let me continue with the show. What doesn't kill you will definitely make you stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, she doesn't know. I hope she didn't read this. I have my Shero, one of my Sheros on today's show. I have researched her, and okay, if I have law enforcement watching the show, you can just call it off now. So, because I'm sure, Lauren, you probably have been thinking someone's following you, looking through the window. That was me. I'm admitting it now. That was me. So please call everyone off. So we have a two-time national award-winning sports broadcaster who joined ESPN and SEC Network in 2016. And she's a sideline reporter for both college and football gymnastics. When I tell you this lady is bomb.com, she is bomb.com. So again, I want to introduce Miss Lauren Sisler. Am I saying your last name right?
Sisler, yes, that is correct. Yes. Okay. Now, I will say that I was recently married. So I do have the Willard last name, but my public name is still Sisler. So I go by Sisler. That's what I've always been known as. So that, obviously has a near and dear place to my heart as well, which I know we'll get into as we talk about my personal story. But yes, Lauren Sisler, and I'm so glad to be here, Jackie. I call you Jackie, right? Jacqueline or Jackie?
As long as you call me, I don't care what you call me. As long as you call me, okay?
Okay.
I'm just, because I wanted to talk about women empowerment and things that we're doing in the community and things we're doing in our personal lives, because all of us have gone through some sort of obstacles, but then it's not what you've gone through is where you are now, because you didn't make it define you. So first of all, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, because I want people to see what I see and what I love. Wait a minute, I was not feeling well a couple of minutes ago. Now I'm just feeling great just talking to you. So tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, you are so sweet, Jackie, and I'm really thrilled at this opportunity to join you and your wonderful network, to highlight and showcase women, as you said, that are all celebrities. And, I just love your tagline of, everyone's in the same book, just a different chapter. I think that is so powerful and so meaningful. And just to give a little backstory about me, I actually grew up in Roanoke, Virginia. So in kind of a small neighborhood in Roanoke, Virginia, and grew up in the mountains of Virginia. I now live in Birmingham, Alabama, which is fun because I'm not too far away from you there, Jackie. We border each other's states, and hop, skip, and a jump over there to Atlanta, to Hotlanta, to visit from time to time. And from Birmingham, I always take a connection flight into Atlanta, so I'm in Atlanta all the time with travel. But I made my way here to Birmingham. So as a sports reporter, it's kind of interesting. So I grew up a gymnast my whole life, and I'm sitting down right now, but y'all, I tell you, I'm 5'9", which is not normal for a gymnast. So people are like, wait a sec, you're a gymnast? Not volleyball, basketball? Nope. I'm a gymnast. Was a gymnast, a has been, but grew up doing gymnastics my whole life. And I always had my sights set on being a collegiate gymnast and wanted to earn a scholarship. And so that was something that always excited me. And I put in a lot of time and dedication to it, and was very fortunate when I was 17 years old to sign my letter of intent. And I ended up going to Rutgers University on a scholarship. Rutgers was never on my radar. So I'm a Virginia gal. I end up at Rutgers for school. And much like recruiting, so for athletics, basically you put together your highlight tape, right? So you put all your best stuff on a highlight tape, your competitions, practice, things you're working on, and you hope somebody recruits you. Well, Rutgers did that for me, and it was an amazing experience. Well, kind of the same thing happens in TV. So you basically put together your highlight reel, like some of your best stuff, best interviews, some funny moments. There's always a good blooper reel out there. Right, yeah. And, I kind of bounced around to different places to learn the TV industry from the ground up. And much like recruiting in athletics, I was recruited to come here to Birmingham, Alabama, where I work for a local CBS affiliate. And that's kind of where I really got my feet wet here in the SEC, covering SEC sports, primarily SEC college football. And then, of course, you mentioned before, too, as a former gymnast, was able to cover NCAA gymnastics as well. So it's been a lot of fun. And, I've really fallen in love with Alabama. I love it here. It was never on my radar. In my mind, I don't know about you, but in my mind, I was always thinking, man, Alabama, I bet it's flat in Alabama. I bet it's really flat. You know what? There's a lot of terrain here. There's a lot of hills, rolling hills, and I guess you could say small mountains. The culture is great. I love the culture here. The food is phenomenal. And I don't know about you, Jackie, but if you speak my love language, food is my love.
I'm a foodie. Yes, I'm a foodie.
Yes, me too. I love me some good food. But yeah, so I've been here in Alabama since 2011, and it's definitely a place that I'm thankful to call home. And, my husband moved here several years ago after we had met. And, we had talked about like, hey, maybe one day you see ourselves going back closer to Virginia. And he's like, honestly, I love it here. And I could see myself being here for a long time, raising a family here. So we love it here in Alabama. And, it's nice because we can kind of call this home base, even though I do travel all over the country for college football and for speaking events and things like that. This is a nice place to kind of call home, and it's easy to get in and out of. So it's definitely nice. And I have to admit, we don't have quite as much traffic as y'all have there in Atlanta. So
stop bragging.
Another bonus.
But that's true because I had Central Alabama, and Birmingham was one of the places I had. And I remember when they were opening up this shopping center, I can't remember the name. It's like a big place where everyone would go shop in Birmingham, like the ultra chic people. And it was so nice. The people were so nice. So I agree with you.
Are you talking about the Summit, the outdoor shopping mall? Is that the one?
It.
Yes.
That's
yes.
it.
And I love it because it's almost like literally when you go up there, you're thinking like, this doesn't even seem like it's in Alabama. It seems like something you'd see in like California, just kind of the layout and the outdoor shopping scene and, a lot of great stores there and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a fun culture and a lot of very cool, like mom and pop, locally owned restaurants. And so, I'm all about trying out new stuff. And so I might have to get with you and see if you've got some good suggestions for when I do come back to Atlanta.
Yes. And I definitely have to meet you when you come to Atlanta.
Yes, absolutely.
You're just a bubbling person and so positive. And in a world that seems dismal, everything's negative, the news, what I try to do is I say that I'm allergic to negativity. So I just look at positive things and turn things upside down. So if something's negative, I want to look at the positive that's in that. How are you, now that we have COVID, how are you coping? How are you dealing? How are you living? Because we're seeing all these news. What are you doing? Because when I told people that I was having you on the show on one of my private group pages, I have so many questions, but that's the number one question. How are you remaining positive in a negative world right now?
Yeah, and it's so hard to do because I'll be honest. So I mentioned to you, my husband, we actually had our wedding planned for May 30th of 2020. So as you can imagine, every little girl, most every little girl dreams of that big wedding day, wearing that beautiful white wedding dress, walking down the aisle, experiencing all the love that family and friends have to offer in that, that one day, that once in a lifetime day. And, then comes COVID. And at first we didn't really know what it was. We didn't know how long it could last. And, I was supposed to go to Disney World for like a bachelorette party and everything. And I'm like, oh, well, that's okay if that doesn't happen. But then next thing you know, it's like, okay, that's not happening. This not going to happen. And you know what? We're going to have to cancel your wedding. And so at first it was very devastating because it was sort of you put yourself in that situation. You've dreamed of this for so many years. I'm now in my 30s. And I mean, this is something I looked forward to. You put all your heart and soul into planning this thing. And I think what's crazy about it is in that process, you realize too, how much reality gets away from you. Real life gets away from you. The important things get away from you. And I will tell you, I truly think that I'm like you. I take what happened in the cancellation or the postponement of the big wedding celebration, all the pomp and circumstance, honestly was a gift, because it forced my husband and I to take a step back and say, you know what, we have to postpone this because it's the right thing to do. There's a lot of people's lives at risk, the health, the uncertainties, not knowing. And ultimately, we want it to be a day of celebration, not a day of worry and concern. And, oh no, like I don't feel comfortable doing this. And so we sat down and talked about it. And my husband, was pretty upfront with me. He said, Lauren, I'm going to be honest with you. During this, we did a 1.5-year engagement. Long engagement. I don't know if I recommend that. Everyone kept saying, just plan the wedding, get it done. Don't do it. Don't plan. And now looking back, I'm like, we could have totally planned a wedding in 6 months and had a great time. Mm-hmm. But all that to say, he said, Lauren, I feel like in a lot of ways, things got away from us. The true meaning of why we're getting married and, that covenant that we're sharing with one another and with God, like that has left us, in many ways. It's okay. Well, how am I going to address the envelopes, and when am I going to send this, and how am I going to, do this, and down to every little detail. And you start to realize then it doesn't become about the marriage itself. It's about showing off everything else but the marriage, right? Like the flowers and all that stuff is beautiful, and all that stuff is wonderful. And I think it's a beautiful day for any bride and groom, but it gave us an opportunity to really hit the reset button. And so we decided that we were going to get married. My husband said, I don't care. We're getting married. I said, even we got to go to the courthouse, whatever it takes. We are getting married on May 30th, 2020. And, for a couple days I was devastated. And then I realized, like, wait a sec, like I've got the man of my dreams sitting here telling me he wants to marry me. Like, what's there to be upset about right there? And, just to think that we still had this opportunity. We work out at a local gym, and we work out with one of the pastors at the church. And he was like, Lauren, he's like, I'll marry you in a heartbeat. We can do it tomorrow if you want. And then, we just talked to him about getting the chapel for the church that we go to. And that would have been something that we had to book out like years in advance. And because of COVID, he said, it's all yours. I mean, if we got to do it at 10 o'clock at night, whatever works. And I'll tell you, it was just an amazing experience because I felt like I was so in the moment. I felt like I was there. Those doors opened. And I mean, it was me by myself walking down the aisle, and it was my husband up there, the pastor, and then our, 8 family members. And I just felt like I was so in the moment and just was able to feel every bit of what was going on. Now, don't get me wrong. There were moments that I like blacked out and was like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting married. Like every woman does. You're like, what is going on? But when you figure, you just look at the whole, the way things ended up, transforming in that day. It was just absolutely a gift. And I think that is, Jackie, what you are trying to bring to the forefront and helping, young women to see that there are so many gifts in our struggles and the challenges that we faced. There are gifts woven through each and every one of those challenges. And while you can't see it now, it may take years, but you look back and say, that is a gift. And I think that it's even more of a gift to be able to see when it's a gift and to be able to use that in a positive way. And I think that's the one thing I would encourage people, just take a step back. People are struggling. Finances are, all over the place. Am I going to have a job? Am I going to be able to put food on the table? How are we going to survive this thing? And I think that, and I hope that people have taken a moment to really take a deep breath, to kind of focus on themselves. Because if you're me, like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I look back and I'm like, man, we were doing this last March. Like, where did time go? Like, how many times we say, man, I would just love to have a sick day where I can lay in bed all day and watch The Price is Right and do nothing. Well, we got to have a lot of those days during the pandemic, but I do think that the fear and just the uncertainty of everything, it just passed you by. And you think, man, sometimes you just got to slow down. And I think that forced us all to slow down. And I think we need to take a deep breath and continue to take those deep breaths as we continue moving forward, because life is going to come at you fast and it's going to come at you hard. and it's not going to be easy. And there's going to be challenges. Just when you think, oh man, I couldn't go through anything else, like life is going to throw you some curveballs. You just got to be ready. You got to swing. And if you don't hit it the first time, try again. And I just want to encourage people that, light's at the end of the tunnel, and this is only going to strengthen you. And you're going to look back 10 years from now and see the symbol of the mask and say, you know what, we overcame something so great. So I like to replace the word. Instead of saying in 2020, I lost ... I like to say in 2020, we overcame, fill in the blank.
And I like that because we wanted to go to Bali for our anniversary in October. So what happened because of the pandemic and because I've gone through a lot of crap in my life, to me, this is gravy. Unfortunately, people have died. So I am not saying there hasn't been any devastation. But for me and my husband, we decided to step back, take a deep breath. Normally people will say, take time to smell the roses, but do you know what color the roses were? Do you know? So now I'm actually, look at the, the butterfly, look at this, look at the grass. So a lot of couples that were friends of ours, they're divorcing right now because they could not tolerate being in the presence of each other. My husband and I, we somehow became closer. And I'm like, because this year we'll be married, I think 31 or 32 years. I'm the dude in the relationship. I can't remember stuff. So he knows all that stuff. I know, but and I loved it. And I'm like, oh my God, does it have to end? Because we created an oasis, because I call my house heaven and outside hell. So I'm not going to bring hell into my household. So we have to make sure that we created the foundation. So this is what we're doing. We talk, we do. So because we were working so much and passing each other, I'm going here, I'm going there, and we come home. Now, because of the pandemic, it's like, oh, look at your toes. It's almost like we were newlyweds. We were so good. We were playing The Price is Right. We were playing, Name That Tune, probably before your time. We were playing, watching shows like that, playing the games. And I told my husband, I can't believe I still love you. He was offended by me saying that. I can't believe I still love you. I wouldn't trade you in for a 21-year-old no time soon. And he's like, what does that mean? Were you thinking about a 21-year-old? So but this actually has, for me, I'm a deep thinker and I'm very thoughtful, but now I'm actually being present, because I was multitasking and everything was great. For me, multitasking, I find it as an insult, because I want to give you my focus. I don't want to, hey, I'm on the phone and I'm typing and someone else is talking to me. So the pandemic has helped me to focus and to be more present, and it's also now helping me to say, no, I can't do it, So I love that. And, congratulations on pretty soon you're going on your anniversary next month. The 30th.
Yeah. So we're actually going to do a wedding celebration. So we're actually getting married. Our wedding was set to be in, it's called Mountain Lake Lodge, and it's in Virginia. It's in Pembroke, Virginia, which is right outside where both he and I grew up. And it's actually the resort where Dirty Dancing was filmed.
Really?
So, yes. So I don't know, if you jog your memory, that was a movie back in the 80s. And it was supposed to be set in the Catskills, where Baby and her family went to this, the Kellermans, right? So it's kind of cool, because we're going to sort of relive and replay some of that. But it's going to look a little different. It's going to be much more of a celebration. Honestly, just an opportunity to gather friends and family together, to be together, to have that reunion, to have that opportunity to spend with one another, and really to embrace one another, because we haven't been able to do that in the last year. We haven't really been able to truly embrace one another. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, as you mentioned, got to get the honeymoon 2.0 in, right? So we did kind of a little honeymoon after our actual wedding. We went to Amelia Island in Florida, which was gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful. We loved it. Just kind of a mini moon, we called it. And then we're going to go out to Montana and try that out. We wanted to go on a Mediterranean cruise, but obviously the cruise industry is still, very limited. And, I want to go see another part of the world when it's thriving and when it's bustling, and, people are happy and just, life is vibrant and in bloom, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I think we're kind of hold off maybe another year or two for that big trip. But yeah, so lots of stuff to look forward to. And again, I feel so optimistic. We're rounding the corner here. There's been a lot of devastation, as you mentioned, a lot of lives lost, just a lot of the things that are hard to replace. But I do think that, if we can kind of flip our mindset and realize that through all that, like, we can be strengthened. And, I think there's a lot to look forward to.
So do I. Now, as I talked earlier about we've all gone through obstacles. Now, I want to know, because I've read your story and you are amazing, young lady.
Aww.
You are amazing. And I don't say that to everyone, but you are amazing. I love everyone. I just don't like everyone. You are amazing. And I want you to share your story with us, because I've noticed when I'm talking to people, we really don't get into the backstory of what brought them to where they are. And I want people to understand we're all flawed. We carry something, but it has made us stronger. We shouldn't be embarrassed. And I always tell people, look, I'm a survivor of sex trafficking, date rape, survived date rape, attempted date rape, excuse me. And this is who I am. But when people look at you, they think that you're perfect. You've not gone through anything. So can you please tell us a little bit about your backstory?
Yeah. And I appreciate the opportunity to share, because as you mentioned, everyone has a story, right? We are all in the same book, right? Different chapters. And within those chapters, everyone has a story, and everyone has, a narrative that has led them to where they are today. And I think that it's so important to acknowledge that, everyone has a story, and everyone has gone through something that has hopefully strengthened them, or at least brought them to a different perspective and helped to reveal a different lens and a viewpoint. And for me personally, I mentioned to you that I went to Rutgers on gymnastics scholarship, and I grew up in Roanoke, Virginia, and it was my mom and my dad and my older brother, Alan. He's 2.5 years older than me. And, we were, we were a happy family, like always on the go. My brother was a 3-sport athlete. I, was the gymnast in the family, and, just always together, traveling on trips, going to gymnastics meets, traveling halfway across the country, road tripping it, with the good old Sisler family, and I'm so thankful for those memories, thankful for holding on to those memories, because that's something I do cherish and will forever. But I had my sights set on being a gymnast, and that was a proud moment when I signed my letter of intent, and my parents were just so proud. And knowing that, their little girl made it. Like, I've worked so hard, they worked so hard, the money and just the time and dedication, and that's shout out to all the parents out there. I mean, I tell you what, I think, and I don't have children yet myself. Hopefully one day, Lord willing, I will. But the amount of time and dedication that parents have to put into their children and their athletics, their extracurricular activities, their academics, all the above. I mean, it is a full-time, overtime job in every essence of the word, but obviously straight from the heart and with love. And, I was very fortunate to have parents that loved my brother and I unconditionally and were there for us. Were we perfect? Absolutely not, and it's so easy to paint this picture of, this perfect family. And, I think about certain situations where, like in middle school, we had to transition from, our home in Roanoke, in a very modest home. We were building a house out in the country. So, my dad had wanted to build a house. And I remember we moved into a mobile home for, a short period of time. And I remember just being like, and then, my dad had this car, it was a hand-me-down. I wanted the black sporty, like, Pontiac Trans Am. Well, guess what I got? The Pontiac Grand Prix that was teal, and it was hand-me-down, and it was however many years old. Right. But that's life, right? Like, you have these big dreams. And I remember at the time kind of being a brat about it, like, I wanted this cool sports car, but at least I had a car, right? Mm-hmm. And I think those are things you don't realize, and you're going through those things and the memories. And, when we lived in that temporary home, I remember we were living on top of each other. My bedroom was the size of a closet, but I can tell you, looking back, those were some of the best memories, because we were literally just spending all this time together, and we had Thanksgiving there. And let me tell you, the food was still the same. It tasted just as good, but instead of it being on a big dining room table, it was on a card table, in the kitchen. And so the food was there, but even more importantly, the people were there that make it special. And so looking back on those memories, embracing those moments that can just flash before our eyes. And now looking back, I wish like anything I could have that time back, because unfortunately when I was a freshman at Rutgers, I got a phone call from my dad, shortly after I'd talked to both my parents on the phone. It was my second semester. I just talked to them, always talked to my parents on the phone every day. You know, I was always in communication with them. But I just talked to them on the phone and everything seemed fine. We said our I love yous, our goodbyes, and I was getting ready for some exams that night. And I woke up to a phone call from my dad to tell me that my mom had died. And I was just so shocked. I was like, what do you mean? I just talked to her hours ago. Like, it's the middle of the night. What could possibly be wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, look, I can't explain it now. I just need you to get on a plane. I'll be at the airport to pick you up. And unfortunately, he never did show up that day to pick me up. Instead, it was my uncle and my cousin who had to deliver the bad news that my dad too had passed away. So when I got home to Roanoke, Virginia, not only had I lost my mom, but within hours lost my father, and really with no explanation at all. We were like, what? Like, what happened? We were in such shock, our entire family in complete shock, not understanding and comprehending what happened to both my parents. And we would later find out a few months down the road that both of them had overdosed from prescription drugs. So both of my parents had been going to a pain management doctor in Roanoke and had been seeking medical treatment to kind of help them cope with their chronic pain. My mom had degenerative disc disease. My dad had chronic back pain. My dad also served in the military, had some issues with some depression, PTSD. And, you know, they were medicating, but they did such a good job, as a lot of parents do, of closing those doors and keeping us as their children closed off from reality, because they didn't want us to know they were suffering and struggling. They didn't want us to know that they were in pain. They didn't want us to know the finances were in the tank. Little did I know that, you know, my mom had to go to my aunt and ask for money to buy my prom dress that year, you know, my senior year. My parents didn't have the money to afford it. They didn't have the money to afford the computer to send me off to Rutgers. You know, there were all these things that they were asking for help with. But through all of that, nobody truly knew that they were struggling with this drug addiction, because they did such a good job of hiding it, because they were what you would consider normal people, right? But that's the thing. Like, there is no such thing as normal. We're all going through something. And I think that's where the labels in our society, and I'd love to dig into that a little bit more. We are so good at labeling people, right? We are so good at labeling people and labeling people for, you know, where they grow up, the car they drive. Remember, I talk about I wanted that sports car. Well, I was afraid I was driving that teal Grand Prix that people would be like, oh, that's not as cool.
Right.
You know, your religion, the color of your skin. People put labels on people. And I think it's so important to realize that, you know, labeling people, number one, it creates a stigma. Like, we're stigmatizing people. So I think that for my parents, the fear of being labeled as addicts. I couldn't use the word addict and overdose in the same sentence with both my parents. So I can only imagine, as the addicts themselves, how they were feeling. And I think that it really hindered them to be able to actually cry out for help and say, hey, I am drowning. I am struggling. I am suffering. I'm in pain. I can't do this on my own. And unfortunately, it was too late for them to cry out for help and get the help they needed to hopefully reverse course and get things under control.
And I think also, too, the stigma is, back in those days, I think when people said that they were addicted, they didn't think prescription drugs are there. People were thinking it's crack, it's cocaine. Now we're realizing you can become addicted to prescription meds, you know, so it's almost like if you're addicted to prescription meds now, it's more tolerable. You know, but addiction is addiction, and we have to reach out and we have to help people. And sometimes too, when you're perceived as being a strong person and you're reaching out for help, people are like, oh, you don't need help, you're fine. And no, because I'll reach out because I have my core friends where I'm saying, look, I'm struggling, or I'm just exhausted, or what have you. Or, you know what, or sometimes I'll go through some little things with my husband and I'll call a friend and, oh, you have the perfect marriage. Look, there is no such thing as perfect marriage. We all go through things. I mean, is he a great guy? Yeah, but I mean, we get on each other's nerves. You know, I'm just more vocal about it, you know, because I know sometimes there's something that I'm doing. But there, you know, we have to be able to, in today's society, you know, we had the pandemic. We're living a pandemic. We need to be able to have this communication where people don't feel like they can't talk to us. They should not feel embarrassed about anything. I don't care what it is. And I think that's what we need to start working on more and more, because I think now we're in this pandemic, people are closed up in their homes. They don't want to talk about what's going on, whether there's lack of food in the household, whether there's, I'm not liking my child and I'm hitting her more than I should be, or I'm hitting her at least. Oh, I can't stand my husband. We don't have that. And thank God now we can do the teletherapy, because prior to that, people were struggling. So I want people to understand, especially women, our tribe, we have to start reaching out to each other. There isn't anything wrong in saying that you need help. Don't wait till you get to the P in help. When you feel things are happening, start reaching out. So I wanted to know, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think you make so many valid points, because you're right. If we just sit and we just wait for everything to collapse underneath us, oftentimes it can be too late, and it can be devastating, not only for the individuals themselves, the loved ones, the family, the friends, the people that are surrounded in this. And, I think we see that a lot of times, because you hit the nail on the head there when you said that people don't want to show that sign of weakness. Well, I'm weak if I admit to having a mental health disorder. Well, let me tell you, first of all, I'm a woman of faith. And so I definitely very much rely on my faith to kind of carry me through life. But I'm also not afraid to say, you know what? There are health professionals out there that know what they're doing. I'm going to call them up and I'm going to make sure. So I'll tell you, before, a few months before my wedding, May 30th, the wedding day that we had set, there was some things that emotionally I was dealing with, and just, things about the family, and, being worried about, my parents not being there, and what was that going to feel like? And, just things in my life that were, just needed some direction, some unbiased direction. And so I started to see a counselor here in Birmingham, and it was an incredible experience. I still go to her. I go, once a week, once every other week. And, after my parents had passed away, I was pretty much like, I'm good. I don't need anybody's help. And then I was like, no, ma'am. Yes, you do. And we're going to help you. And I felt like Rutgers really gave me, my family as well. My aunt and uncle really stepped into the gap when my parents passed. But also my teammates and coaches at Rutgers. And really, they said, we've got the resources. We're going to help you. We want to do everything we can to help you get through this, but you got to stand up and take that first step forward. And so they got me into some counseling. So that was the first time I'd experienced professional counseling. And, I kind of took it seriously, but I was like, okay. And then later on in life, I did it again, and I felt like I really reaped the benefits. And then now, even later in life, and I just think it's so important, whether it's counseling or getting in small groups, being able to get in small groups where you have a connection with someone. And let's just say, there's groups that exist, whether it's in your church organization, your community, different things in your neighborhood, where it's like, okay, we're going to get all the ladies together, or, women over 30, or, different groups where you might have similarities, but also differences that you can bring to the table and express your feelings and in an open space and say, hey, this is me. This is my identity. This is, what I live for, what I enjoy, what I do. And, I think it's just so important. Transparency and vulnerability is so important. And I go back to what you said about the prescription drug aspect of it, because I think people do have this perception. And I think even myself, even after I acknowledged that my parents died of drug overdoses, I always wanted to make sure I threw in prescription drug overdoses, because I thought, oh, well, that sounds a little bit more high class than cocaine or heroin or whatever else. But, oh, by the way, I have come to realize that my parents are no different than the homeless man living under the bridge shooting up heroin, because he or she has a story. They started somewhere and went down that same path. The same thing when you talk about people that are incarcerated. My heart truly goes out to people that struggle with addiction. And, the majority of people that are in our corrections facilities now, in some way, it's tied to drugs.
Sure.
Whether it's drug dealing, obviously money being exchanged, and or actually becoming addicted to medications and or street drugs, and participating and doing things that, had they have not been under the influence, would never have done. and it gets a hold on you. And so my heart truly goes out to the men and women that end up in our corrections facilities, due to drugs and alcohol, because I truly think that they have a chance at redemption. And I love to see it when you see these men and women that have these tremendous success stories where they go through a tough time in their life. I think about some of the dumb things I've done, and I'm just like, man, like I could have gotten myself in serious trouble for that had it have, gone just slightly an inch to the other direction, like who knows? And I think that that's the one thing I want to impress upon people. None of us are exempt from life's difficult circumstances. None of us are exempt from making silly mistakes. And, I think that second chances are huge. I think loving people for who they are, opening your arms, embracing them. So yeah, everyone's got a past. Everyone's got a history. But if you can open your arms to them and not label them and say, well, man, I heard this person spent a year in jail because they were, running a drug ring out of their apartment, right? I think that, there has to be compassion. And I will tell you, Jackie, my experience with losing my parents, while early on it was obviously very, very, very difficult. But I feel like now, looking back, we just crossed the 18-year mark, which is crazy. So I've actually lived 18 years with my parents and 18 years without them, which is just mind-blowing to me. But I feel like my experience with them and what happened and where I am now has truly been a gift, because I feel like I have this gratitude for life and gratitude for people, for all people, that I don't think I would have had this have not happened to my parents and happened to me and my family, because I don't think I would have seen it the same way. I think it's easy to kind of coast through life with cruise control on and just you get complacent. And for me, I'm just so grateful, because I think that, it's been revealed to me in so many ways, like just the compassion and love that I have for humanity and just relationships and, treating people equally and knowing that, hey, I don't know what you've been through. You have a tough day and, people go through stuff, and just loving on people, even a simple hello, a hi, how are you? That's probably been the hardest part with the mask thing. I'll be honest with you, is like, a simple smile. Mm-hmm. Hey, how are you? Walking down the aisle of, a grocery store or, Home Depot or whatever it may be, you open up a conversation, or a simple hi, how are you? Hello, just an acknowledgement, that person, may be having a tough day or going through something really tough, and just to know that someone out there acknowledges them.
And cares for them, because especially in the Black community, we tend to not believe in therapy, going to a therapist. It's usually the Bible, that's not enough. So hi, my name is Jacqueline Charles. I go to therapy because I knocked away what happened to me. And I was going through some panic attacks. And I'm like, what's going on? And it was so bad, I would pass out. I didn't know what was going on. So I found a therapist and I said, look, this is the type of therapist that I'm looking for, Lord. Please this is particularly who I want. I want someone from New York. She has to be over 50. And somehow I got the right therapy, because she wasn't going to put up with my BS, and she was going to be able to handle me. Okay. Talk about Dr. Ruth. This is Dr. Ruth Jr. And that's what I was looking for. And she unlocked what I suppressed. And when it all came out, that's what I was suppressing, and it manifested into panic attacks because things were triggering and I didn't know why it was triggering. And thank God she helped me unlock what I was going through, because now I'm showing compassion. Not that I wasn't compassionate before, but I'm so appreciative of life. I'm just appreciative of people. I had a young lady call me. She wanted to intern with our company. And I was telling her, the first thing she said was, I have a record and I had some issues and I've overcome them. So I just asked her one thing. I said, well, did you do X, Y, and Z? And she said, no. I said, well, I'm good. I said, I'm good. I says, I am not here to judge you. I am not here to, and she's like, wait a minute. So I was telling her a little bit about my life, and she's like, oh my God. So I say that to say that you're right. We deserve second chances. What I teach my mentees and my interns, if you see someone in the supermarket or anywhere you're walking, particularly a woman, since we can't say, hey, you're gorgeous, and oh my God, your teeth, and oh my God, your hair, find something in someone you don't know, not with your friends, and say hello. Find something that's beautiful, whether it's their shoes, their clothes, their body. Just say, oh my God, you got it going on, or oh my God, you're gorgeous, whatever it is. Mean it, not lie. But now, since we're wearing the mask, just say, hey, what's up? And do a fist pump. Wherever you just at least do that, because they're going to be so caught like, oh my God, and just say, have a good day. So now, when they're calling me, they're like, Miss Jackie, I did that. And this lady was telling me she was having an awful day. Imagine how you're changing lives. I am here, I believe, to be a little sprinkle of sunshine, because I've gone through hell and back. I don't want anyone to go through what I've gone through. I'm not here to save the world. I just want to help in the community that I'm in, and then my community, in their community, and so on and so on. So I think it's so important that we remove labels. It's so important that we show compassion, because if God can forgive us, we can forgive other people. That's how I look at it. And you mentioned something, because when I got married, and I'm like, my mother's not going to be here. And, I went through that. But you know what? What I realized, I married a good guy. Look, Lauren, I don't know why he's still with me, because I wouldn't marry me. I am not a trick. I'm a journey. Okay. I am a journey. So I don't know how he's still here, but
I'm not a trip, I'm a journey. Girl, I'm gonna take that one from you. I love that.
We're Ricky and Lucy all together, okay? He's Ricky and I'm Lucy and Ethel by myself, okay?
Oh, goodness.
I'm like, do I have multiple personalities? What's going on? She's like, no, you're just funny and you're just crazy, but you're not crazy where I need to give you prescription pills. You're just funny, and this is just your personality. So, I just want everyone to be happy. I want all my friends to be happy and in great relationships. I don't care who they're in relationships with. And that's how I think we can change racism. We can change the Me Too movement. We can change gender, equality. That's what I think we need to do. We have to start, first, we have to start loving ourselves. We have to start with that, and then you can love other people. That's how I think about it. But how did your aunt and uncle stepped in. How did you use that to form the Lauren that we see today?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that a lot of it has to do with just really breaking down a lot of the barriers that I had built up to protect myself and protect my family. Again, it goes back to those labels. What is it about overdose and addiction and addict that really resonated with me growing up? What is it about those labels that made me think that my parents were exempt from that? There's just no way that they could be suffering through that. And then when I had to acknowledge that and share that with others, just the pure fear of what people would think. And, even going through that and thinking, man, what if someone Google searches Lauren Sisler and I'm up for a job opportunity and they say, well, man, her parents died of addiction. What if, what does that say about her? What kind of person is she? How was she raised? Oh, could she fall into those same addictive behaviors? So all those things used to go through my mind of like, man, this is going to be tough. This is going to define me. But my aunt and uncle really stepped in and I'll tell you, first and foremost, 2 weeks after laying both my parents to rest, my aunt and uncle said, you're going back to school. You can't sit here. You cannot just sit here and mourn this, because you have a commitment to yourself, to your university, your coaches, your teammates, and this is what your parents would want. You sitting at home and mourning this and grieving this. And yes, the process of grieving, everyone grieves differently. And grieving, I'm still grieving at times. Like we grieve loss for a long time, but I'm just so thankful for really that kind of tough love that they showed me. And they said, hey, you're going back to school. You don't have an option here. And I think that was the best thing I could have done, is to go back to school, get back to work, start putting the pieces in motion for whatever this new life was going to look like without both of my parents. Right. I had to grow up quick. I was like hitting a brick wall. I didn't even know how to write a check when I was 18 years old. My parents were always focused on your gymnastics and schoolwork. We'll take care of the rest. Well, it was a massive learning curve when, I went back to school and had to figure it out. But also the tough love came in too from my coaches and teammates as well, because as I mentioned before, there were times where I was just like, bleh, like, oh, I can do this on my own. And, pity party, if people will understand if I'm flunking my classes, her parents died. Like, it's understandable that she's doing this. But that became unacceptable very quickly to my coaches. I made that commitment to Rutgers. I said, the gymnastics team was one of the highest GPA team. We had the highest GPA of any of the teams at Rutgers. And all of a sudden now, not only does my performance in the gym matter, my performance in the classroom matters. And I'm now bringing everyone else down because of my inability to, to function, because I'm allowing this loss to just consume me. And again, I had to step past that sort of pity party and, oh, well, no, there are no hall passes. My coaches said, Lauren, you're here at Rutgers. You've got a scholarship. We are doing everything we can for you. The resources are right here, but you have to utilize them. And so it was sort of impressed upon me like, hey, we want to help you and we're going to do everything to help you. We back you through this, but you have got to stand up and take that first step. We cannot do it for you. And I think when I had that realization that, I still had to put forth the effort. I had to pick up the pieces. I had to keep moving forward. That's when I realized like, my life is going to be no better, no worse if I don't take control of it. I've got to take control of it and move forward. No matter everything that's happened in your past, every bit of your history, you can sit there and say, that's going to define me. Heck no, that doesn't define you. Allow it to define you in a positive way. And I think that's where I had this realization. My parents aren't defined by how they died, but by how they lived. I want to follow that same path. How can I define my life by how I live and help other people and be a vessel of hope for other people, be a voice for other people that feel like they've been silenced? I want to be that person. And I truly think that even being a sports reporter, it's all come full circle now, because I feel that, I kind of got into sports thinking like, I know, Jackie, you mentioned like the whole celebrity thing, like, oh, that's so cool, sports. And yeah, I get to cover sports for a living. I talk to some of the most prolific coaches and athletes to play the game. And yeah, at first, like, oh, that's cool. Look at me, I'm on TV. But what I realized, it's so much more than that. I actually am in this place where, I tell stories. Like, that's what I do for a living. I tell stories. And it wasn't until I started opening up and sharing my own story, undoing those shackles of shame, that I realized like, wow, like I can tell a story and I can be a storyteller for other people, but I can be a storyteller for myself and use that to help other people. And that's when I realized like, I've got a purpose here. And so that's what I want to encourage people is live your life on purpose. And you talk about your sort of saying, mine is fall in love with your story. Like just fall in love with your story, embrace who you are, the good with the bad. You are going to have chapters that you just want to rip out of that book and throw in the trash.
Yeah, sure do.
A lot of them.
Sure.
Hey, that's okay. I mean, it's like you turn on a movie. Well, what's the fun in everything being hunky-dory, fun and perfect? I mean, what kind of good movie is that, right? You got to have some suspense. You got to have some drama. You got to have some fallout. You got to have some heartbreak. And then, I think I'm just thankful that my perspective has lent itself to that through my experience as a sports reporter and being able to tell stories. So I think that I was put here for more than just being a sports reporter. And I think that's where I encourage people, wherever they're at in their lives right now, whether they are, serving at a restaurant, waitressing at a restaurant, or, driving down the street, emptying out trash cans and recycling. Everyone does something on purpose. Everyone has a purpose. And when I see that young man on the back of that garbage truck outside, in my mind, I don't think, man, what a stinky job. I think to myself, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your service and what you're doing for our community to keep it clean. Because guess what? If we didn't have somebody coming to pick up our trash, we'd be in some serious world of hurt. And I think that's the perception. So to be able to flip that and say, man, like this man, this woman is living their life with purpose. They're doing something to truly help. And if you can have that mindset when you go out there, you're not just going out there to sell something.
Right.
If you're in a sales role, you're doing something to help someone with purpose. And I think it's so important to try to remember that in everything that you do, because when you find that purpose, you will be rewarded in so many ways. And when you come home and go to bed at night, you will feel that. You will truly feel that sense of purpose and accomplishment and say, hey, you know what? I'm doing something not only for myself, but for the greater good of people.
And that's why it's important for people to live their purpose, because you may be working a 9-to-5 job or a job you don't like, but you have to step out, because there are some people that I've talked to that, well, Jackie, how do you do that? You left, a 6-figure income training doctors, and you're doing this and you're starting from scratch. And I said, when you would do something and you wouldn't get paid for it and you still want to do it, that's the job, because the money will come. That is so true. The money will come. And I love this because I also talk about when you go into a restaurant and you have your wait staff come and talk to you. What I normally do is, I kind of freak them out. I'm like, can you please get your manager over here right now? And they're shaking in their boots. And so they'll ask me, is there anything the matter? I says, look, you need to get your manager right now. And I'm not smiling. So the manager will come over and you can see on his face, he's like, what's going on? Well, I want to tell you something. I need you to sit down right here. You need to sit down. So my husband or whomever will sit next to me. You need to sit down right here, because I have to tell you something. I am totally impressed with your wait staff. So he's like, oh my God, really? And so I'll ask for the wait staff to, walk away, and I'm talking to him and he's shaking his head, and you can see that they're quaking in their boots. They're probably peeing in their pants. And I said, you know what? This is what I've noticed. So many people are so quick to complain. They're not quick to compliment. So I'm going to tell you, this wait staff, he or she is phenomenal. They're doing a great job. So then he'll call them over, and you can see that, and he'll put that look on his face, and they'll come over, and he says, she's giving you a compliment. And they're like, really? I was wondering, what did I do? Did I give you too much water? And I'm like, okay, Jack, you can't do that, because you may bring on a heart attack on someone, That's what I do every restaurant that I go to, because I can see that they're tired, and they may have nasty customers, and you may have some wait staff that may have an attitude, but so what I tell the wait staff as well is, the customer's issue, if they're nasty, it's their issue. Don't make their issue your issue. Each customer that you're seeing is someone different. So I'm here to tell you, I don't know if you had a crappy day. I'm here to tell you thank you, because I couldn't do your job. Thank you for doing what you're doing. You are appreciated. And they walk away, and the manager will say, that's better than any tip. I says, no, I'm still going to tip them. And I think we need to thank people, so I'm just trying to just be a light in everyone's path that comes across me. That's what I'm trying to do. But I think that's what I am doing. And I want to communicate that to my tribe, that that's what we need to do. So you made mention of someone's throwing out the garbage, and, that may not be their purpose. It's just something to pay the bills right now. And I encourage people to live your purpose. Do what your heart tells you to do. At least try it. And you're not failing if it doesn't work out. Just find another way. Because I tell people, I just want someone to crack the door. If you crack the door, I'm going to kick the door down. That's it. That's all. I'm not looking for a hand out, just a hand up. That's it.
That's right.
That's all we're all looking for. We're just looking to live peacefully, a great quality of life for our family. I'm not looking to be a multi-billionaire. Whatever God sees for me, that's what's going to happen. And I just want to, have my community just be happy and healthy. I'm looking for a Garden of Eden. That's what I'm looking for. And that's what I'm establishing in my community, without the figs, actual clothes, but without the figs. So my next question to you is, why should women support each other?
I think women supporting each other is so important. And, I think a lot of it comes with the fact that, there is that separation, and there is that divide that sometimes we feel that maybe we're lesser, that we can't achieve certain things. But I'll be honest with you, a lot of times when it comes to, people making comparisons, oh, you're going to be the next Erin Andrews or the next whatever sports reporter. No, I'm going to be the next Lauren Sisler. And I think that sometimes, while I think it's very important to bring attention to what we are able to accomplish as women, right? And all the accomplishments that we have, we also shouldn't be surprised. Don't be surprised when you step up to the plate and you hit a home run, because, oh, by the way, you earned it. You worked your tail off for that moment. So don't be surprised when you are given a deserving honor or a pay raise or a job promotion, because you earned it just as much as the next person. And I think that is so important, but also to just be true to yourself and to realize that, you don't have to go out there every single day with your hair done, your makeup done, and your, rocking in your stiletto heels. For me, it's my sneakers, because I don't do heels. That's just not me. But I'm also 5'9", so the heels aren't really hugely necessary for me. But whatever it is, you rock it, you own it. And I think that is the key. The comparison thing is one thing I want to talk to young women about, especially because social media has just crushed our spirit, man. Let me tell you, you get on social media and you see how many likes this person has, how many followers. You start scrolling through, what kind of content are they putting out there? Oh, flashing around and, a bikini picture. And you're thinking like, oh, is this the only way I'm going to get likes? No, you need to be true to yourself. I would much rather, me personally, have 500 authentic followers, people that genuinely love to know what I'm up to, feel inspired by what I'm doing, than having 5,000 or 10,000 or 30,000 people that are just there for one reason and one reason only, is because I'm a female working in a sports world, and, oh, she's a tall blonde, like I'm going to follow her. No, like we're not defined by that. And that's not how we should be defined. And I think that is where, comparison is the thief of all joy, from Theodore Roosevelt. Like that is so true, because I feel that we always compare ourselves to someone else. Oh, she's prettier than me, or she looks younger than me, or skinnier than me. And, you start doing these comparisons, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're just swimming in comparisons. And now you're trying to be something that you aren't. And so I think it's owning who you are, embracing who you are, the good with the bad, again, whether you love something or hate something, being vocal about it is great. And, just being encouraging to people. Don't look around for you. And I say this, a lot of people say, oh, the grass is greener on the other side. No, the grass is green where you water it. And I'm telling you, if you can plant those seeds, water it, foster those relationships, and really foster your own true authenticity, I think that you're going to find that you blossom and grow into this beautiful flower that, is unique to you. And it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks or says or sees in you, because you're out here being true to yourself. And those colors are going to be so vibrant and so, so apparent to everyone else. It is so easy to spot authenticity. And I think that that's what more and more people want in this world. So when you go out as a woman and you are applying for that big job, you're going in for that big interview, you're looking for that next opportunity, be true to yourself, because your true colors will always shine through. And when they see that to me far exceeds any sort of, comparison, label, profile that people want to put on you. You be your own profile, you be your own person, and everything will come full circle, and it'll truly pay dividends in the long run.
And that's why, when people would talk to me and they would say, oh, you want to be the next Oprah? And I agree. No, I want to be the next Jackie. No disrespect to Oprah. I want to be, she, had the map, the floor plan. I want to be the next Jackie. That's who I want to be. So we have people, so we may not be comparing ourselves to others, but you have others comparing you to the next, to the next, to the next. Well, on that list is the next Jackie. That's how I see it, so I don't like to be compared. And it's not being disrespectful, is I am trying to create my own path. I don't need to be compared to Oprah and to all the other people that are out there. So like you, I just want to be compared to Jackie. Just let me see what I need to do, how I need to do it. Now, back in the day, my favorite gymnasts were Nadia Comaneci, Mary Lou Retner. She was so teeny. And so my question to you is, who was or is your favorite gymnast?
Well, of course, Mary Lou Retton, as you said, she nailed the perfect 10, right? That was definitely my favorite. I look back, I have a project where, oh, who do you want to be when you get older? Who do you look up to? Who do you admire? And I know Mary Lou Retton was on there, and she scored the perfect 10.
Yes.
So certainly looked up to her. Of course, I love the Magnificent Seven when they competed in Atlanta, the '96 Olympics, the gold medal. Dominique Mucciano, Dominique Dawes. That was such a tremendous time in our lives in the sport of gymnastics. And, unfortunately, there's been some negative headlines as of late, in the gymnastics world, and that is heartbreaking. But I also, hope that the sport is able to, overcome some of those things that have happened. Obviously, the allegations and the terrible, terrible things that these gymnasts have had to endure over the years. Once again, as a female sport, and having to deal with, a lot of those issues that surround, the sexual abuse and, just the mental abuse that they were, dealing with, and the physical abuse. But all that to say, I hope that it has brought light to the sport and we turn the page and things are done differently and treated differently. But obviously the '96 team was one of my favorites and one that I truly look up to. And then, of course, nowadays, how can you look past Simone Biles? That is someone
My God.
I mean, you talk about like the
my God.
Michael Jordan of basketball, the Tiger Woods of golf. Like, she is, I mean, I don't even know that like it computes in like human, like scientific, like the physiology, everything that goes into like what she does as a gymnast. I don't even think it's like human. I mean, it's insane.
Exactly.
It's incredible. But I love her personality. She's such a bright light for the sport, and always fun to watch. And so, I just I love the opportunity to watch, especially when the Olympics roll around. Getting to watch the Olympics and everything. So, would definitely say she's very high on the list of my my fan favorites.
I love her. My favorite guy was Kurt Thomas. I just thought he could do no wrong.
Yes.
I just loved him. So you're going to be living for 99 plus 99 times 99 more years. What would you like your legacy to be?
Great question. I think my legacy is, I guess putting it into words. I want to live a life that when people see what I'm doing, it's not, oh, I want what she has. Mm-hmm. It's, I want people to see the positivity. I want people to see the authenticity and say, I want to be true to myself. How do I replicate the authenticity in my own version? How do I become the best version of myself? How do I become who I want to be? And I think that for me, just that legacy of, being remembered as someone that, is able to flip the script, the positivity, the strength, but being able to truly appreciate life for what it is, appreciating life's, most valuable moments. Because look, time is irreplaceable. Time is priceless. Time is non-refundable. And so I think that when I leave this earth, I want to know that I made the most of my time here by showing other people and being a light for other people, and, just truly using my story and the stories of others to just, shine so much love into this world. And I think that, that's one thing with my parents, the legacy that they left. They were loved by so many people and loved so many people. Before my mom passed away, I remember her, my aunt actually told me that my mom had said to her, I just don't really have many friends. And I just feel alone. And it's crazy to think, because when they passed away, that funeral home was so full of people. People were just, the doors wide open. People couldn't even get into the chapel to be able to pay their respects because there were so many people there. There were so many friends there that loved my mom and loved my dad dearly. And if only my mom could have seen that. And so I want to leave this earth knowing that I did my part, and knowing that I am loved and can love people so genuinely and just share that love with the world, because I think it's so important that we have that because it makes us unique. It makes us human. We shouldn't all be the same, right? We shouldn't. I mean, if we lived on this earth and we are expected to all be the same, then what are we doing here, right? And I think having conversations and realizing you are unique, you are truly unique. Embrace that authenticity, embrace that uniqueness about yourself, and use that to be a positive light and a positive vessel for other people. And just always, 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 be truthful, be loyal, be honest, and love with your entire heart. And I think that's something I hope to leave behind as well.
Well, trust me, you're doing it now, okay? Because I'm going to be playing this over and over again, and I'm going to forget that I need to release it out to everyone else. But, and for me, one of my mentors, because I believe in mentors and I have several mentors, I had to redo my bio. So I asked him, I said, I got to redo my bio. He says, this is what I want you to do. Here's some homework. I want you to send out an email to everyone that you know and ask, at least, he said, Jackie, you know a lot of people, so do at least 20. Send this email out to people and telling them you're redoing your bio and can they describe Jackie Charles. I started crying. He's like, what's the matter? You don't think people love you? I said, I just don't want to see what's going to come back because I know it's going to be so overwhelming. Lauren, when this came back, I'm like, who is this girl? I want to be her best friend. Who are they talking about? Who's this Jackie Charles? And I was just so overwhelmed that I still kept it. So whenever I'm going through my, the woe me days or woe with me, or I'm overwhelmed, wow, I read that. And it just brings me back into a sense of self and, self, because I never felt that I don't have any self-worth no matter what I went through, because I was always a confident child and a confident lady and a confident woman. But just reading the impact that you made on other people, it's just amazing to me. Now, I know you have a book, so I want to make sure we talk about your book.
Oh, no, not a book, a documentary.
A documentary. Let's talk about the documentary. Yes. We got to get that out. And so I'm hinting, when's the book coming out? Because we got to get the documentary. Okay.
Yes, the documentary. Hopefully the book will be in the works. It's a project that I'm working on, trying to put the pieces together and trying to get that out so people can learn more about my story and just really the journey. But the documentary called Beyond the Shadows, and sort of why we're here today. Just sort of the footnotes version of my story, my parents' story, kind of how things led down the path that they did and sort of where we've arrived today, and really just doing our part and helping to normalize addiction as an illness and helping people to realize that people, when you're struggling with these addictions, mental health disorders, that this is not defining you and this is not a defining moment. There is help out there. There is hope, and we're all struggling with something. And so the goal of the documentary is to kind of bring that to people. So you can find that documentary on my website, laurensisler.com. It's about 20 minutes, so not a super long documentary, but something that people can watch, really kind of get a better feel for my story and just sort of my parents. And, there's some good home videos on there and just some photos, and, really just, kind of brings the entire story to light and sort of illustrates how things, transcended throughout my childhood into adulthood and whatnot. But yeah, Beyond the Shadows, and you can find that on my website at laurensisler.com, and of course on social media as well, at Lauren Sisler. There's a lot of stuff there that you can find. And I just appreciate it. The documentary was something we worked on for a couple of years. We kind of had to put it on the shelf for a little while. Of course, COVID happened and everything else, but the hope is to continue sharing that in different communities. And so we sort of did a launching off point where we did it virtually with, just kind of the open community, but we really want to target different communities and really have these conversations to help break down these barriers that people feel when it comes to addiction and mental health disorders, and really just bring that to light, and just to say, hey, this can happen to you. This can happen to your family. This can happen to anyone around you, but it's okay. There is help. There is hope. And then there's obviously the prevention element, trying to educate our youth, trying to educate our communities, our parents, to let them know that this thing exists. This thing called addiction is a monster. It will get its grip on you and get its nasty claws in you forever. And we can stop that. We need to prevent that, and we need to realize that it's dangerous, it's scary. There's ways to prevent it, but then also we want to provide people with hope that are in the throes of it and that are struggling with it and that need help.
Well, I want to say this to you, and I know I've just met you in this short space of time, but I'm here to tell you, your mom and dad is looking down on you and they're saying, we did a great job.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
They
That
did
means so much to me.
They did a great job with you. I mean, because they put so much into you now, because as a parent, you always want that when you pass, God forbid if something happens before your child reaches 18 or whatever the case may be. Uh-oh, I promise. Thank God I didn't put lashes on because the tears are rolling. Okay. You want to make sure that you've impacted your child and you've given them enough that if something were to happen, that they can take their life and they can, have a great life. And because you've gave them a great foundation, some values and things like that. And you are just an amazing human being to me. I mean, I'm telling you, I've been stalking you. And my mentor, Bud Zabrowski, he was the one that, we were talking and we were talking about you. And he says, you need to interview her. And I'm one of those people where I can get anybody. I don't care who it is. I'm going to get them. I don't care if I have to stalk them. Okay. If you're law enforcement, that was just a joke. Okay. And your story is just powerful. It talks about hope. It talks about redemption. It talks about forgiving. It talks about loving oneself. So screw Wonder Woman. Here's Lauren, So thank you for being on our platform. We so appreciate you and what you're doing and what you will be doing in the future. And again, we want to thank everyone for tuning into the Women Are Worthy Network. Don't forget, if you want to join our tribe, you must subscribe to the Women Are Worthy Network on YouTube. Lauren, it's just been fabulous. I'm not going to take up all your time because I know what you have planned. So I'm not going to take up your time. And I want you to have a great day, a wonderful relationship with your husband. You guys are going to be married 99 times 99 more years. You guys deserve each other and you deserve, prosperity. I wish you prosperity. I wish you happiness, joy, peace, abundance of children, prosperity, because you do need money to live. So we're going to put that in there, and wonderful faith. And I thank you, my sister. Thank you for being part of our tribe.
Yes, thank you so much. It is wonderful. It is such an honor. Thank you to everyone who's watched and will be watching. And much love to all of you. Stay the course, chin up, smile. Never let that smile leave your face, y'all. Much love to you guys. Jackie, thank you.
You're welcome. You've just been, like I said, a wonderful person. See you guys later. Bye-bye.